This class is Essence of Education for Life, and already you all have practically taught it for me because you have picked out a lot of the things that are the essence of education for life. I was getting my master's degree in education back in, I don't want to remember when that was, but 70s, I guess, and I took a class on a counseling class and studied Abraham Maslow. And I don't know how many of you know about Abraham Maslow, but he's one of the very few psychologists who had made it his field of study was normal and what I would call supernormal people. Instead of studying abnormal psychology, he studied people who were either big achievers or who just had joy and tried to figure out what brought that. And you probably have heard of Maslow's hierarchy, a lot of you. But one of the things he said, I remember I wrote my paper for him, about him for this class, and one of the things he said was that it's a shame that the schools, because they have to be religion-free, that they have thrown out the teaching of values along with the teaching of religion, but there are many values that people could all agree upon. And I just thought at the time, this was before Education for Life and before all that came into my life, but I just thought, you know, I know that's true. I just know that's true, but I'm not sure how you do it or what that would look like. And it took many, many, many years for me to learn what that looked like. I know when the book Education for Life came out, even though it is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, and it does come from ancient yogic truths. And later on in some of the classes, I'll draw some parallels to some of the Sanskrit terms and etc. That it's for anyone, for everyone. It's not about a particular religion or even any religion, because atheists can agree and do agree that responsibility is important, that kindness is important, that generosity is important. And one of the things that so thrilled me about my book, and I'll identify it for the video audience, Calm and Compassionate Children, is that I received a sterling, resounding review in a magazine called Mandala, a Tibetan Buddhist journal. I also received a recommended Buy This Book review from Tikkun, which is a Jewish journal. And my book is now on the Center for Progressive Christianity website and being recommended by Christians. And also I know it's been the book that was studied by a group of parents at least one Baptist church. And so this is really thrilling to me, and I bring it up because what we're striving to do here is not create more Ananda schools, but to take timeless principles and translate them into practical action for today's world and today's children. And what it looks like here is not exactly what it looks like in Seattle or Palo Alto, or what it's going to look like in India, or what it looks like in Assisi, or what it might look like in Africa or wherever. A lot of the principles are going to stay the same. However, the outward manifestation is going to have to take into account the needs of the people, the culture they're coming from, and all of those things. But the core principles stay the same. And so what are those core principles? Well, one of them you all have already brought up. And well, first of all, let's talk about the law of motivation. And what is the law of motivation? It's that everybody wants to be happy and to avoid pain. That simple. And if you look, I mean, there are millions of ways that manifests. Some people do it by having a goal of becoming millionaires. Some people do it by having their whole goal is to have a big happy family. Some people do it by acquiring things. Some people do it by going back to the land and doing organic gardening. Some people think they can achieve it by travel. Some people, unfortunately, try to achieve it through drugs and alcohol. That's a method of avoiding pain and trying to be happy. But no matter how it outwardly, that's what, at the core, motivates everybody. And so, if that's what motivates everybody, then we can use that in how we motivate children and how we teach, which is to show them what actions bring them happiness and what actions do not bring them happiness. And it's not didactic. You all know didactic, right? It's not that we preach, do not be selfish. I mean, we may preach that, but that's not how they're going to learn it. They're going to learn it by experiencing selfishness and then being pointed out to them later in a very gentle way that didn't bring happiness. And then it's going to be by giving them opportunities to open their hearts and to be unselfish, and then showing them, wow, look how happy that made you. For example, Sandy Goodwin, when she taught intermediate, she had her kids every year be secret pals with the kindergarten for Valentine's Day. And so they would leave a little Valentine on the kindergartners' desks, and they would make chocolate chip cookies or some sort of cookies. I have a photo of that in one of my slideshows that you'll see sometime. And they actually bag them up and package them really pretty and write a note. And while the kids are recessing, for a 10-year-old, it's so much fun to do something secretive and to try to sneak in there while the kids aren't there, and they always succeed, and leave these secret packages. And the neat thing is very seldom have the 4- and 5-year-olds ever figured out where they come from. They really don't know. They guess everything. And it's great because the older kids, you know, have to keep it a secret and don't let on. Of course, we can see that they are letting on. But and then later on, it's a discussion of, was that fun? Why was that fun? And then when things go wrong and aren't fun, well, why aren't they fun? And when things go wrong on the playground and everybody comes in upset, well, what happened? Why do you think that wasn't any fun? When kids exclude other kids, well, look at what happened to the energy. Everybody's mad at each other. Some people are pouting. So does it really work to exclude people? And so what we're talking about is experiential learning and not didactic. You know, one of the things that I'm really, really happy that more and more the importance of teaching, that's called all different things like EQ, emotional quotient. Let's teach emotional intelligence to kids. Let's teach calming down and yoga to kids. All these things are being espoused by different groups, and even in the public schools. I know that there's yoga in the public schools. Great. But so often what I find is these new innovative curricula, yes, the concepts might be really terrific, but when you actually look at what the curricula is, it's exactly like what was used to teach us when we were all in school. Here's the lesson, here's what you tell them, and here's the coloring handout they do at the end of it. I know recently I went to some of you are from Seattle, I don't want to say anything that in case any of you were on the committee that created all this, but I went to the Seeds of Compassion event last spring where the Dalai Lama spoke in Seattle, and some of the curriculum, at least that they had on the website that they were recommending for kids, it was just the same. Oh, I don't know if any of you grew up going to Sunday school or catechism or whatever, but it was just the same old thing. It was just, except it was teaching compassion, but it was just teach them this, have them learn this, rather than giving them experiences. For example, bringing a dog into the classroom, bring a buddy day where every kid gets to bring, well, the kids can bring their stuffies anytime anyway, but on bring a buddy day, which we did, we haven't done one in a while, have we, Helen? But we used to do them maybe a couple of times a year, and the kids would bring a stuffy in, and in this classroom they would have a tea party, have pictures, it's so cute, the stuffies sitting at the table with their tea. And another picture that I really treasure is these 2nd and 3rd grade boys who brought they all had Beanie Babies. And they used to play, what's that game? Foursquare. Foursquare out here. We had a Foursquare painted court, and they played it constantly. And when they went out on Bring a Buddy Day for recess, these boys took their little buddies, and do you all know how Foursquare goes? It's a block of 4 squares, and you progress by bouncing the ball, and if you don't get it in the court, you're out. And if you do, you go to the next level, next level, next level. They took the little buddies and put them right in the center of where the intersection of the box is. And when they'd move to the next one, the buddies would all move too. And then when they got out, the buddy'd go with them. And they just, what does that do for a second and third grade boy? It's okay to have fantasy. It's okay to pretend. It's okay to show tenderness. It's okay to have heart. It gives them the opportunities to actually experience those things. I know that recently, as I mentioned, the Center for Progressive Christianity, because of going to this conference in Seattle, there was a Presbyterian minister there whom I met, and she was actually called by the center and asked if she would help write a Sunday school curriculum, because what the progressive Christianity people believe is, besides they believe in Christ and they believe in the teachings of Christ, but they also believe that other paths, I'm quoting it as nearly as I can remember from their website, that other paths to also have as much validity for the people who practice them as ours does to us. And it's very inclusive and you know, just the kind of thing that they would love, Education for Life schools, right? And the president of the organization feels that one of the most important things they can do, there are 400 churches who are affiliated with it, everything from Catholic to Lutheran to United Church of Christ. And in fact, when I spoke at the Librarians Conference, Church and Synagogue Librarians Conference last July, one person rushed up from New York afterwards and said, "Our church is a member, we can't wait for you to do this curriculum," like she was going to get it next spring. I don't know, sure. But anyway, he felt the most important thing they could do to support all these churches is to provide curriculum for teaching kids that promoted the principles that they espouse and that weren't the traditional, you know, sin and redemption and you do it because you're saved. And so this Presbyterian minister said, "No, I can't, I'm too busy, I can't write it, I'm a mom. But I know somebody you should talk to, the author of Calm and Compassionate Children." And so when he called me, I said, "Well, let's meet and talk." And after I met him, I said, "I know somebody you should talk to, Lorna Knox, author of I Came from Joy, Spiritual Affirmations and Activities for Children." And I gave him both of our books. And his daughter read my book, and he read Lorna's book, and he called me up and he said, "This is exactly what we've been looking for, and I have not seen anything like it." And he has searched all the Christian, he's even especially gone to publishers in Canada who actually produce what he says is, in his mind, the best Christian Sunday school curriculum. But he said that none of it helped the children live it. They were just talking about it. You know what happens when you talk to children about telling the truth endlessly, or you talk to children, this is a big one, to talk to children about being kind to each other. Doesn't this happen when one kid, you know, one brother hits the other brother and then the other brother's crying, and isn't it our first response is, "Why did you do that?" Well, of course, if they knew why they did it, they would be teaching child psychology, you know. "Because I'm hungry, Mom, because the teacher slighted me at school today, Mom, because you have this other child in the family, and I'm jealous because I'm living in a world that's media saturated and I'm overstimulated." You expect them to explain to you why they did it? No. And then the second thing we say, "How would you feel if somebody did that to you?" They already feel upset. They can't possibly get out of themselves to look at somebody else's point of view. So now, not only are they feeling bad because they've done something you're mad about, they also have to feel bad because they don't feel the way you want them to feel about it. Apologize. It's all this big thing about go apologize, like that makes it all right once they apologize. But how many of you have seen 75% of the time, they don't feel it, they don't mean it when they're apologizing. It's just another way to, you know, suppress your real feelings and act this way. Yes, we do want you to learn to control your feelings and behave, but talking about it just doesn't change behavior. It's having kids have experiences and then reflecting with them about those experiences and how it feels. As it says in Education for Life, and I can't possibly put it any better. An important point to be realized when helping children to achieve fresh insight into the problems they encounter in daily life is that the intellectual understanding of a problem is not only insufficient, but often is not helpful at all. What is important is that they find themselves moving happily in a new direction, and not that they themselves understand all the reasons for the direction. This is profound. This is not what other curricula are doing. If you don't believe me, go look at it. I mean, bring them in. I'd love to find somebody else who is, because we could collaborate. But that's not what you find out there, because there's just not this awareness that, and what is this next core principle that brings us to this next core principle? That it's all